I didn't forget your baby cakes. We're still talking about best films of the 90s. I started this series because some people think I don't like movies from the 90s, and in fact, I do like movies of the 90s. There are a lot of amazing films that came out of that decade. Some of the best ever in their genre or subgenre. I just don't like some of the ones we're having nostalgia for. So let me talk about some great films from 1995, as well as a few that are really cult classics that are actually good also. My opinion, yours may differ, and that's totally cool. This is 1995. Check out the previous years. They're all here on my channel. Seven is the film that really cemented my interest in David Fincher as a director. This gothic noir thriller brings together Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman as two grizzled police officers, one new, one older, investigating a series of murders based on the seven deadly sins. It's thrilling, suspenseful, but it's also meditative and precisely slow-paced. I just love soaking in the atmosphere of this film. We also get Kevin Spacey, who we don't love now, but he was a good actor, and Gwyneth Paltrow, who doesn't get to do too much, but she is still very good, as she always is. Toy Story is the movie that built Pixar, honestly, and for good reason. Written by Joss Whedon, it beautifully recreates the innocence of childhood and playing with our favorite toys and the amazing adventures those toys went on in our minds. Tim Allen and Tom Hanks lead a really great all-star cast. It was no surprise that we got an entire franchise from this one film. The stoner comedy has several entries, but there's only a few that really matter. Up until Friday, Cheech and Chong really owned that subgenre. There have been others, Half-Baked and you know, others, but until Friday, we didn't really have a contender. Friday, starring Ice Cube and Chris Tucker, is easily one of the most quotable movies of the 90s. It's hilarious. It's also culturally relevant. It has something to say. Apollo 13, directed by Ron Howard, is really classy old Hollywood in a sci-fi adventure, but it's a historical sci-fi adventure. It's based in real events, and Ron Howard actually brings together a stunning cast for this, led by Tom Hanks and Kevin Bacon and Gary Sinise and Ed Harris. It just goes on, and Kathleen Quinlan. It's thrilling, it's melodramatic, but it's beautifully acted, beautifully shot. A really classy movie from 1995. I wouldn't exactly call Michael Bay an auteur, but when he gets one right, he gets one right. And Bad Boys gets it right because it's a simple story. It's just your straight-up cop, you know, buddy cop movie, buddy cop adventure. But what he does do is he brings his visual aesthetic together with two really great actors who carry the film. Martin Lawrence and Will Smith really have a vibe off each other. They're hilarious. It's good, simple, fun, beautifully shot, and wonderfully acted by everybody involved, but in particular the two leads. It seems like there for a minute submarine movies were all the rage, and this was one of the more fun entries. Directed by Tony Scott, it stars Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington as two leaders inside one sub butting heads over what should be done, and the outcome could be nuclear war. It has that Tony Scott flair to it, but it's subdued because we are stuck inside a sub for the majority of the film. So the weight of the movie sits on these two actors, and their chemistry together is palpable. You could cut it with a knife. Very fun movie, not too heavy on the sub stuff as far as knowing, you know, what this propeller does and where the missile comes out. This is more about the drama between these two actors. Here's another dynamic duo of the 90s, Chris Farley and David Spade. They did a whole series of movies together, but Tommy Boy is absolutely the best, and it really is a cult classic. It riffs on some stereotypical kind of humor, but it really works here. These two play so well off each other, and you have Rob Lowe, Brian Dennehy, and Bo Derek kind of bringing up the pack in the back, and they're all really good and fun to watch. Ghost in the Shell is a stunning anime. I love anime movies, not so much shows. Ghost in the Shell is one of the best animes ever made. Without Ghost in the Shell, we wouldn't have The Matrix. Like Blade Runner, it really had an impact on the aesthetics of science fiction. This is, even if you're not into anime, this is highly recommended for you to watch. Amy Heckerling, there for a minute, really knew how to feel the pulse of young people in different decades, the 80s and the 90s. This movie's making fun of the wealthy youth of the early 90s, but not done to a mean degree. And Alicia Silverstone really broke out from this movie because she is just so fun to watch, even when she's being clueless. It's funny, has a lot to say, and is really a time capsule of the 90s. Mel Gibson really knew how to do an epic there for a minute, and Braveheart is absolutely his best, telling the story of William Wallace fighting against England with his merry band of warriors. It's action-packed, it's huge in scope, and also heavy in drama, but not melodramatic. It feels palpable and real. This is such a fantastic movie, but go pee first because you're going to be sitting there for quite a while. All right, those are my picks from the 90s. I know I left some out. I know from 1995 I left some out, but this is my list, not yours. But feel free to hit me in the comments. Let me know what you think I left out and what movies you love from 1995. I'll see you guys on the next one. If you want to see 90 through 94, definitely check them out. They're in a playlist here on my channel.